You're listening to Honey, We Made a Disney Podcast. Two friends since living large on pizza Lunchables. Now dads reliving the Disney movies we grew up on with our own kids. I'm JB Waggoner.
And I'm Eddie Ferguson. And on today's episode, we find golf riveting for the first time in our lives as we review the greatest game ever played. But first, JB, how are you and the family doing?
Doing good. We had a big birthday party this weekend. A lot of people over, celebrate my daughter. We are planning, hopefully soon, to move her into a big girl bed. That's a big milestone. Excited for that. We're going to be doing that. She's got her actual birthday coming up soon, so we'll do it on her actual birthday. This was like party with family and friends and stuff. But we have been bemoaning the fact that we've had all of our kids in some level of diapers, and so proud. Maybe this is TMI, but my son finally is out of pull-ups now. He's finally kicked it. He's figured out how, even though he's I'm a hard sleeper, dada. I'm a hard sleeper. He's figured that out. Have one less kid in diapers or pull-ups or whatever. So excited for the financial boom we are about to enjoy by not having them anymore. So it's a big day in our household. It's significant. I know. It's
huge. Yeah.
Where you guys are almost in that spot, right? Or has Lewis kind of kicked it yet?
Yeah, no, we are down to just one kid in diapers. Because we figured out how much we were spending on just pull-ups for just Eileen, and we just like stared her in the eye and was just like, listen. We are done. Like, you have no idea how much money this is costing us. We are done. We cannot do this anymore because it's so expensive here. So we just kind of like willed her through it, got her cute little potty like in her room. So if she's got to go, she just gets up in the middle of the night and goes in it. She may pour it all over her bed or something. But in the wise words of my wife, doing laundry every morning is still cheaper than buying a pull-up every morning. And I'm like, yep, you're not wrong. So sometimes we have to, but not often. Like, she's doing better. We get the up and we're like, oh, everybody's in a good place. And then it kind of a bad week. And then a couple days, those are a couple good. And then it's back down. It's the roller coaster, and it's been going on for a year. But we got one success story so far. Hopefully I don't speak too much too soon. And then all of a sudden we're back to square. Knock on wood. Spit, go outside, turn around, spit 3 times and curse.
Yep. Well, the next time we FaceTime, you see my kids, you should ask my son about the game that he earned by not needing pull-ups
bribing
anymore.
There is nothing wrong in using bribery in parenting. Nothing whatsoever.
Exactly. So that's it. That's enough about me. So Haunted Mansion just came out, and neither of us went and saw it quite yet, but it did.
Quite yet.
Eddie, you had I don't know what to call you right now, because you were the one last week that said, you didn't think that Haunted Mansion was going to reach the top 3 of the box office for next weekend, based on what you're seeing with Barbie and Oppenheimer, aka Barbenheimer. And what was the verdict, Eddie?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it would crack Barbie and Oppenheimer. It was still like, could it do even number 3? You know, there's still a lot with Sound of Freedom out there. And I think it officially came in at number 3, right? It pulled in less than the Eddie Murphy version.
Ooh.
Just to put that in perspective for everybody.
And that's not even counting inflation. The inflation of 20 years later, this movie coming out.
Yes.
So less than 30 million, in the similar range of what Elemental did. Who knows if it'll kind of continue to rise, but man, Eddie, you called it. What other things? You got lottery numbers you can give me? You got because that was you last week. And I was shocked. I was like, that's a great take. That's a great bet, I bet. Even though you can't bet on it.
And I think Yeah, I mean, what happened is what I thought might happen is everybody who went and saw one of the two last weekend, if anybody came back to the theaters, they were most likely seeing whatever their friends told them to go see, either Barbie or Oppenheimer, or the one they didn't watch the weekend before. Like, most people aren't going to do a double feature in one weekend. And yeah, that's what happened. So it came in at number 3. Its global box office was awful. Like, I think that's the thing the thing that people have got to remember, like, it's gone are the days where like movies just can do it big in the US and that be it. Like, you gotta get both if you want this thing to have long legs. That's what's made Elemental so huge, is its long run. Like, it was banking money in the Asian markets, particularly South Korea. That's where you got to find life, and to have an opening like that, yeah, people aren't going to go see it. I sent you an article, kind of asking the question that I had asked. I was a little disappointed in the article because I feel like they didn't really answer it super well, but it's a good question to ask. And that is, why did Disney release this movie here and now?
During the summer, instead of at the Halloween
during
time.
The summer.
Yeah.
Like, to me, this is beginning of October, end of September, maybe type of movie. Give it that opportunity. This is the same thing that happened with the first Haunted Mansion. They released the first Haunted Mansion, the Eddie Murphy version, at the end of November, like as a Christmas time movie. That feels almost worse, right?
To me, that definitely feels worse. Like, I can see a world where they're going, more people go to the theater during the summer. You've got the kids, and they laid out some of it in the Variety article that was there. You've got the crowds during the summer. They probably didn't anticipate Barbie or Oppenheimer being this massive, especially Barbie. I would say I'm still shocked that it made 90 million its second weekend, which is nuts. Those are Marvel films. Of yesterday, not this of yesteryear, not the current ones, but not previous Marvel films, they were making crazy figures.
Sure,
but
you have to know though. Okay, it's a Christopher Nolan film. That's going to have a lot of gravity to it, right? That's just going to have its own orbit for a while. Then Barbie is still a pretty well-known entity.
It's a giant American brand. It's
a giant iconic American brand, yeah. And it's got a stellar team behind it, right? You've got a great writer-director who's got a good track record of good storytelling and fantastic actors. Like, I haven't even seen the movie, so I'm just speaking from the top sheet there. But yeah, it's still, I get what they were going for in maybe putting it there. This was the last weekend before kids start going back to school. At least, in Indiana, this is the week that all the kids are starting to make their way back to school. So if you wanted to hit like a summer movie, this was your chance. That that window is shorter than it has been in the past. But still, I would have held this for a September release, or something like that. Like, hit one of those late weekends there in September. So it seems like poor planning. On the other hand, I gotta give some props to Disney marketing. I thought they did some really clever, fun things. I mean, it was a lot to overcome. Barbenheimer had huge organic social media reach, where neither of those studios could create that on their own. That was a very much a grassroots thing that is hard to overcome. But Disney tried. They did I thought like the Zillow thing was really clever that they did. A couple of the other marketing commercials, they did their best in getting the word out there. It's just there was nothing left by the time they got there.
The one way I can see that the strategy, I can see a little bit of the strategy of trying to get hopefully more people in theaters during the summer when kids are out of school. with the hopes that then they can get their window during the summer. And then by the time that 90-day window is over, they can then get it onto Disney Plus in time for Halloween and for the fall time to be able to carry it through. And that's where I'm like, the previous release of having it in November, that's a crazy talk. That makes no sense whatsoever. But
even that, isn't that though? I mean, you and I both, I don't know if you will end up going seeing it, but for me, my rationale was, why go see it in theaters when I know it's going to be out on Disney Plus in time for Halloween? Like, that's not long of a wait. So for me, I'm willing to make that gamble and go, okay, I'm willing to wait.
It's still the same window. It's still the same window as all the other Disney films, though.
We don't know. They haven't told us yet when it is going to be.
Well, they haven't really gave us that for this movie either. But I'm thinking of like Little Mermaid, which neither of us went and saw, but like some of the Marvel films, like they're all kind of hitting that same like 90-day window now. We've kind of reformatted that. Avatar is one of the few that doesn't. So I can kind of get behind that of like, I can see what you were planning to do. And they just totally underestimated the power of Oppenheimer and Barbie. And I think that, and also I've seen that there's a lot of horror movies coming out this fall. Like they've got another Saw movie, the 10th Saw movie. There's a lot of marketing behind some of these other fall films coming out. So I can kind of get it. But at the same time, you're always going to be taking a gamble here with something that it's just not rushed. You don't have to rush out to go see this. And to some extent, seeing this in your home and like appliances kind of making creaking sounds and stuff like that kind of adds to the element of surprise. Like this, you don't have to go to the movie theaters to see this film. I think that's, for me, ended up making the difference. I'd kind of planned to go see this, and then I was like, man, you had said you weren't going to go see it. My wife was just a clear out. Like she was like, I'm just going to wait for it to come on Disney Plus. And that's where I was like, I've seen a lot of movies this summer. I probably need to save some money. So saving money won out in the end.
But I think what we're getting at is the heart of some of the streaming issue. I think the reason why less people are going to the theaters to see your Haunted Mansion type movies is because we've been programmed, I'll just get that on Disney Plus in, let's say, 90 days, it'll be out in 3 months. I don't think that's a good long-term strategy. They're not actually making that, they're actually losing money with it going to Disney Plus, right? That's the broke element of this system. Before, when it would go to DVD, actually that's where they would make a lot of money. They would often make more money in the DVD sales than they would in the theatrical run. So you could make, some of these comedies or these rom-coms that don't do that great in theaters, but they have a huge DVD sale. In the streaming world, they're not making any money off of that. And I think we're now programmed, and I think you brought up a really great example of Avatar, The Way of Water. Everybody knew they were just going to sit on that for the longest time, and they did. That didn't come out for 6.5 months onto Disney Plus. And what did it do? It just sat in theaters and just churned in money and churned in money and churned in money because everybody goes, well, they're not going to put that on Disney Plus anytime soon. So if I want to see what everybody's talking about, I got to go see it. And I think this is going to come back and bite them of like, you've got to retrain people. To me, it's a very similar issue. It's the exact same issue of the Pixar movies where people will go, oh, Pixar just comes out on Disney Plus. I can wait for that to come out on Disney Plus. I think they're going to have to rethink this strategy and reel it back in if they want to make any type of money in the theaters. And they're going to have to rethink what streaming actually looks at. More ads, sadly.
Well, we're over halfway through the year, Eddie, and Disney does not have any of the top films of the year so far, not even close. Like you think of all the other movies that come out that people actually want to talk about. And at my office now, we're video people in our space, but all the conversation is Oppenheimer. What that film experience, a little bit of Barbie as well, because obviously a lot of people are seeing both. but nobody's talking about Disney films right now, and it's hurting them. It's hurting them that they're not drawing people anymore.
And I'll tell you, I even we were talking about going and seeing the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie. Like I saw a couple of trailers for that, and I'm like, man, I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like that was my movies as a kid, the live action, the cartoons. I had all the toys. I still have all my toys, my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toys from when I was a kid. And so that was another one of those where I'm looking at it going, I may take Lewis to go see that in theaters. Like that might be, I need to see like what the tone of it actually is. But for me, it's kind of on the same par as the Mario movie of going, hey, you're pulling at my generation's nostalgia and making these movies, at a level that I could take my son to go see. I just haven't seen a movie like that from Disney come out where you go, man, I want to take my kid to go see that. And that's the bread and butter of Disney movies, right? The whole family going, we've got to go see this together.
Sad time to be on the Disney train. Except for us, we got plenty of content to talk about with Disney.
Lots.
So what were your reactions to the new Loki season 2 trailer that just dropped just hours before we started recording this podcast?
To tease, what comes next, I kind of wondered, like, did they see how bad of a response Secret Invasion got? And so they're like, quick, drop the trailer, quick, we got to get it out there so people start thinking about a different Marvel property fast. That was my first reaction.
Is that Short Round from Indiana Jones? Is that the guy behind the counter? That's great. That's
fresh
great.
Off of an Oscar win.
Yeah. I think that it kind of, because we're gonna talk about Secret Invasion here in a second. I think that it made me want to revisit Loki again and give it a second a second look at it. I didn't leave Loki with high thoughts about it. It left me a little.
But you liked it up until the end. You just kind of struggled with where they left it, or was it before?
No, I had a lot of issues with the fact that he's in love with himself, which makes sense, but also grosses me out.
Yes.
Some of the whole middle of the series was really dull. When they get left on the planet and they don't know how they're going to get off, like that whole planet just felt odd and strange to me. But as many does as we've had from Disney Plus and Marvel of late, I mean, why not go back and revisit some stuff with Loki? Like he's one of the most iconic characters in all of Marvel, and he's one of the best things that they've ever created. So I might give it another second chance, because there was a lot of things that you didn't really know what was happening. I think this trailer kind of gives you some of it, but it's still chaos. It's just mostly chaos. And that's even one of the lines in there. You're still the god of mischief. And he's like, I am and always will be, or something like that. Did it make you excited to watch it, or were you still reserved, still have a lot of questions? Jonathan Majors is still a part of it as well, as far as we can tell in this. Nothing has changed from those plans.
Yeah, I liked the whole kind of time traveling timeline stuff. I thought that was kind of interesting. It's some of the other stuff. It's like the Star Wars things where you kind of look at it and go, "Ooh, that looks interesting." And then there's that voice inside of you that says, "Don't do it, Eddie. Don't get excited. Don't get your hopes up about this. You know that they will only disappoint you." Especially coming off the back of Secret Invasion for me, where it's just kind of like, okay, I don't know what these shows are about. I don't know what Marvel is. What's the big story they're telling us? It just feels so confusing and disconnected. So I look at a show like Loki, which is all built around that kind of chaos and confusion. And I just kind of walked away from the trailer going, do I really want to get all excited and invest time in this just to kind of come back to where I was before? So some cool visuals, but overall I left going, yeah, you don't have a good track record right now. Like I wouldn't be signing up for Disney Plus if I didn't have it just to go watch it because of that trailer.
Eddie,
now new season of Bluey. Yes, sign me up all day long.
I was just about to ask you, what was the last series that you watched that felt like a complete series? Marvel or Disney Plus or even Bluey? Like, just felt like I got a full. There wasn't any duds in this series or any bad moments.
Yeah, Bluey. I don't know. Are we keeping this to Disney Plus?
No, and I mean, sure. Yeah, let's keep it there.
That's a really great question. What series where there are no duds? I don't think that there has been any that I would say that there were no duds. I mean, the one that jumps to mind the quickest that honestly, maybe we go all the way back to the very first one. We go back to The Mandalorian season 1. Andor, it had a couple of slow episodes. There was a few that I'm like, I don't know if that really, but for the most part, I think Andor was really good.
So that begs the question. That begs the question then, if we can't think of a show that didn't have slow episodes, what are we expecting then of our shows? If even we see Loki and we're already thinking about all the problems it's going to have, but what are we comparing it to? Is television just really hard to pull off?
I think we're comparing it to the movies, which is an unfair comparison. But I think in part that's a self-inflicted wound because they're taking stories that are much better told, in a movie and trying to stretch it out over several episodes and make it feel, bigger or more than it really is. So I can't really think of any Marvel show that I'm like, I've been just like chomping at the bit for the new episodes to come out. Honestly, there's a part where I go, maybe the week by week release schedule is not helping them. Maybe it would go better just to boom, drop it all at once, because then at least you're pulled through those duds quicker, or those not even duds, just kind of slower episodes sooner.
So let's do it. Let's talk about Secret Invasion. We just finished it. Just got the last episode last week. So I came into this, like we've talked about with all of the other series, very timid, very like, okay, let's just take it as it is. Whatever we can get from it, just enjoy the experience. We've been hurt too many. We've been hurt too many times, Eddie. And I don't know that
our hearts are tender.
It's still got a little bit of just waiting to be broken again. It's still got cracks in it. I don't know that this show ever reached any super highs for me. I think I would say there was one episode that I really enjoyed and I left going, wow, that was really fast. Like, is it already done? And that was episode 4 for me that leads up to the president, the attack centered around him. Are we doing spoilers here or not?
Yes.
Full of spoilers. Away. Okay.
Yeah.
I would say that was the high water mark for me. And then you've got Gravik killing Talos in that epic fight. You've got Rhodey, he's blackmailing Fury. You've got all of that just kind of leading up. You find out that Gaia is actually still alive, which has its own mark to it. But I would say that episode 5 is okay too, but man, episode 6, it's funny if you go on, I think I might have even sent you it, on Rotten Tomatoes, they've ranked all the episodes, and most of the episodes are between 52. There's the middle one, actually one of my favorites, is at 38%. Episode 5 is 50, and then episode 6 is 13% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's so horribly bad. It fell off a cliff. Eddie, did you feel the same way? And what do you think was the cause? Like, did you feel that just like the cliff that this series fell off, even though it didn't reach that high, as nearly as high as Andor did?
Yeah, I feel like it was an airport positioned on the edge of a cliff, and the airplane needed to hit kind of a terminal velocity in order to take off and never got enough speed behind it to take off. And then about halfway through that last episode, it's like, and you're out of runway, boom, fall off the cliff and just blow up. Full of jet fuel. Like it was such a fall off the cliff explosion that was almost more entertaining than any flight of a show could have been. I don't know what this show was about. Like the stakes didn't seem real or earned. And it was hard because like I loved the opening. I think we kind of talked briefly about the show when it first opened, and I'm like, okay, I like the espionage thriller thing, and it's kind of what is this secret war that's going to brew or whatever, and I just felt like that never came to fruition. Samuel L. Jackson had a few good moments, like some classic Samuel L. Jackson liners here and there. But for the most part, I just felt like he was stumbling and mumbling his way through the whole role. For me, I would have stopped watching if it wasn't for Olivia Colman. Ooh. I thought she gave the performance of the whole show. Like anytime she was on screen, I'm intrigued. I'm watching. Ears are perked. But as soon as she's not, it's like, okay, here we go again. I just and I think you teased this. You mentioned this when we talked about the very first episode, and I kind of went back and watched a few little moments, and I think I agree with you. I think you were speaking of I can only think of her name
Sonia.
as Robin.
Oh,
the person who mails it in,
Agent Hill.
Agent Hill. You were saying it just felt like somebody just mailed in their performance. It wasn't anything at all. And I'm assuming you're referring to.
Yeah, it was Agent Hill. Kobe Smulders.
Kobe Smulders, where it's like she read all the scripts and were like, oh gosh, I'm glad I get killed off at the beginning so I don't have to endure this. Like, I don't know. It just felt like it never took off. And then it just got weird. And then it's like, what? What does anything mean
what was
anymore?
Weird? Yeah, what do you mean by weird?
The Avenger arms.
Is that what we're going to talk about now?
I'm just gonna say the Avenger arms. Like,
where Gaia versus Gravik, and they have been given the harvest, which already I had no idea what the harvest was.
Neither did I.
This is the thing. I didn't even know what it was, so I didn't know that I was supposed to be afraid of it. And so then when they finally do explain what the harvest is, I'm like, oh, that is a big deal. And then when they show how they use it, where it's like, my arm is going to be from this person, I'm going to have the antenna from another person at times, but the flex of what's his name's arm from the Guardians of the Galaxy and
Drax's
arm, and it's tiny, it's her size. Just it felt so fake. It was so bad.
Well, and I think that's what you said is so right. Like, I didn't know what the harvest was. I didn't know that I'm supposed to like fear this.
They said Super Scrolls earlier, and I even then I'm like, you got to show me what you're talking about, other than he can take a knife through his hand. Okay, and I guess I'm getting shot in the face, kind of. But I never felt one. I liked Gravik. I liked his character in the sense of as a bad guy and he was evil, and he had like killed some people along the way, or thought he had killed some people in Gaia's case. Like I think that made it me feel even worse that the execution in the end just was not good. And the half of that big moment between Fury and Gravik in the chamber, but it's just undermined by the fact that one, it's not really him having this conversation.
And the whole time,
he's coughing and wheezing, and you kind of like, I don't think this is Fury. I don't think this is the way he goes out. And also, why did they hand over the harvest if it was going to be so awful for him and just hope that she was going to be in there to get it too? Like, what if he had like shot her and then thrown her out and then got it himself? Then only he has it, and then their plan is foiled. It just didn't make any sense.
I'm there with you. the whole thing left me befuddled. And then there's the scroll romance between Fury and I can't remember her name.
Priscilla. I didn't hate that. It gave him a little bit of a different like version of Fury that we've never seen.
But I just felt like it was so boring. Like it didn't push the story or the character along.
You didn't feel the wooing each other in the diners,
these long
multiple diners,
dialogue moments where it's just like
there was nothing visually memorable about their relationship except for when they shot.
Not even dialogue interesting.
No dialogue interesting, no visual interesting, except for when they shot at each other and they purposely couldn't shoot each other. I liked that. I laughed a little. I gave it a chuckle, like, oh, that was meaningful. Oh, that was they can't kill each other in the way that spies can't like hurt each other.
I can't quit you.
I can't quit you.
This is I don't know. This just never took off for me. And it felt weird. Like we just create the most powerful superhero in the whole MCU there at the end? Like, is she now the hero of all heroes? We didn't know her before this series. And then now, boom, she's the most powerful. Like, is she just going to pop up in the next movie? Or are we going to pull a Doctor Strange and just act like the Marvel TV shows don't even exist?
Gaia was a very interesting character to me, and not in an interesting way of that I actually enjoyed her, but I kept on going, man, this is a big name actress to be in this role. And she's I don't know if she's being directed this way or the story called for it, but she was so disinterested and she was like jaded, but not in like a good jaded for like to tell a great story. It was like, obviously she wasn't mailing it in, but it was a choice to just be constantly like a jaded character in this. But that's why it made it so weird when she actually takes up the mantle, goes and gets the powers like Gravik does. It's like that moment. And when she first like faked her death, like, I'm like, these are so out of character for who this person has been the entire storyline of like, even being in part of this rebellion doesn't even really make sense because she's not motivated by anything. She's just kind of like mad, or maybe it's just she's disappointed. She's like disappointed in her father, but it's not like driving her towards something. And so her character was muddled the entire time. And you're right. Now we just created what might be one of the most intense superheroes in all of the world. And is she just free to go wherever? Like, I guess she's part of Sonya's crew now. Is she going to be part of the anti-hero series that's coming up soon with being led by Fake Cap? That one was disappointing to me. I wanted more from that character, and she just kind of felt like she was just a jaded person the entire time. But you can't, and then she's the hero in there. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, and then it felt weird that at the very end, they accomplished the very thing that they set out to start, which is just all out anarchy amongst the humans, right? I mean, that's ultimately where it ended, where it's just like all people not born on this planet are considered enemies. Okay, what does that mean now? Like, do we kick New Asgard off of the earth? Like,
what happens to that?
And then I mean, we're just going around shooting and killing people. Like, so what you're saying is, even though she defeated, was his name Gravik? Gravik.
Garrett.
Garrett. I'm just gonna call him that now. She defeats Garrett, and he still accomplishes the very thing that he wanted to accomplish. Like, just all out distrust, anarchy. Like, okay, so you really didn't defeat him. You know what I mean? Like, it just feels.
Will somebody take up Gravik's mantle? That's the question. Another thing I've seen people really hate this show about is it kind of undoes a iconic character and their storyline in the past few films before this in Rhodey, where when they rescue Rhodey and he's wearing his gown and he says, "Oh, how long have you been here?" And so I was like, "You've been here a long time." So people online at least are making the connection of like, okay, was he taken by the Skrulls when he first lost his legs and in the hospital there? So anything that happened in Civil War, especially like in Endgame, like did that just was that not the real Rhodey? And did Rhodey never get to see Captain America? Like, did he never get to see him again? Has he just been like in Bond, like that? And that's not the way. So this character,
they didn't answer it.
They didn't answer it. They didn't tell us anything. And also, you kind of look and go, obviously, this character felt different than the regular Rhodey. He was a lot more just the way that they presented him, and just the way he was sarcastic and evil and conniving. But we don't get anything like that in any of the other versions of Rhodey in the past several films since Civil War, when this would have taken place. So that just felt odd. It felt weird. It was like, why make this decision? Unless they're like, oh, he was in the hospital for getting his appendix out and we took him then. Like, like, why put him in the suit unless that's when you took him?
Exactly. And I think that's what I'm saying. Nothing felt earned. It didn't feel like it. I didn't know what the story was even about. What were the stakes? And it just, because of all of that dead weight, it just never took off for me. There was never a moment where I'm like, oh, there was maybe a moment where I think we had like 3 episodes kind of build up, and we had the chance to like watch 3 in a row, and we didn't. It was like after 2, it was just like, yeah, we'll get to that one whenever, just, even then it just didn't feel it. I think this would have been a much tighter movie. They should have billed this as a movie. Like, I think that the story arc that they were aiming for would have taken place better over the course of a movie. And because it didn't, it dragged it out and actually made the arc, the storyline, less interesting.
That is, you can say that for almost all of these series and all of these shows that we've watched. It's like, this would have been better as a movie. So been better as a shorter story.
I've still been kind of mulling over your question, and I think it comes back to even what you said right there. I think the only one that I would say is better as a TV show than maybe a movie would be WandaVision.
The original, the OG, this whole thing.
The OG. But then they went and ruined that with Doctor Strange.
Funny that it was better as a show, and then the movie made it worse.
They ruined it with the movie. But I look at like Falcon and Winter Soldier. Yeah, that probably would have been better as a movie. Like, a lot better.
Easy.
As much as, and I enjoyed that. I thought that was a pretty good show. But yeah, probably would have been much better as that. Loki, I could go 50-50 with that one. I still really liked Loki. And I could see that kind of going both ways, as whether it'd be better as a movie or
the one I always forget about is Hawkeye. That's always one that I forget about. It's not at the top of my list and things that I remember. It kind of was what it was, and it fit its purpose. I wasn't over the moon for it, but it was like, I think the fact that they hit it with a holiday theme, and it was coming out all throughout that time, I think it did what it needed to do, and it was fun, especially when they would have.
It gave us the spark for Rogers the Musical.
Exactly. Which is now you can go see at Disneyland, California Adventure.
Mm-hmm.
It's out now. But yeah, Secret Invasion had a little bit higher hopes, and it just tricked us, Eddie. Tricked us again. Just left us at the altar. Someday we'll learn. Maybe when we stop doing this podcast, but content.
I think Disney's learning, right? They they're shutting down a lot of these, or they're just going to rush them out. I think next year we will see less and less of these types of shows. I think they're not going to put the money in on them.
Well, that's it for the Disney news today for this week. We try and stay up on the times just so we can tell you, fellow listeners, about all of the Disney news that's happening. And if you're enjoying this and you're enjoying being caught up to date, subscribe. Share this with a friend. Share with your friends that you would want to talk Disney with but are afraid to because they would think you're too much of a Disney adult. Well, take it from us. We are Disney adults, and we would love to talk with you about this. So share it, subscribe, tell your friend about the podcast. But today, it is now time to talk about one of our last 3 films, Eddie. We only got 3 more films from our childhood to talk about that came out during our childhood. And the third to last one, the one we're talking about today, is The Greatest Game Ever Played.
Cue the Disney sound effect.
Okay, the IMDb description for The Greatest Game Ever Played is this. In the 1913 U.S. Open, 20-year-old Francis Ouimet played golf against his idol, 1900 U.S. Open champion Englishman Harry Vardon. Not sure that's that great. It's whatever, but you know what? We're going to move on. Eddie.
It makes it very historical, right? Like, okay, that's the point of this. It's a biopic. It's a historical biopic. We know that. We see that clearly from this. I don't know.
Eddie, had you seen this movie before? Had you seen The Greatest Game Ever Played?
I had not. This was my first time to ever see this movie. I had missed it.
Me too. Are you an avid golf fan? Are you out on the links all the time, like watching it? You got the Golf Channel on repeat in the other room? I know you're a sports guy.
No. You know me, I'm a big sports guy. No, I love sports movies. Like, this is my way of entering into sports. If live sports could be more like this, I think I would watch it. Yeah, your favorite actor.
No.
I love that YouTube clip. My wife's family had this movie, and this was like one of their like go-to movies, apparently. So she remembered this. But no, this was new to me. I hadn't seen this. I love that they do the poster says, from the studio that brought you Remember the Titans, The Rookie, and Miracle. It's very much in that lineage, right? We have our football movie, we have our baseball movie, we have our hockey movie. Let's have our golf movie.
Golf movie?
Maybe golf movie. I came into this super skeptical. I'll tell you that. I was just like, I don't know. Looks a little cheesy. And this movie kind of won me over. I think like the more and more the movie like went along, I was intrigued. I was very interested in the story. I mean, I think it's interesting that it was a biographical story. I think it was interesting that who should have been the antagonist or the bad guy in all of this, the English guy, Harry Vardon, ends up kind of also being like a co-protagonist with Francis through it all. Like, you see that they have parallel storylines, and I liked the way that story was told. I thought like, okay, this is interesting that this is really a story of classes, being played here.
I was just about to say,
that was interesting.
The true villain in this entire movie are rich people, preppy snobs. I appreciated that.
What did one poor person say to another poor person? Who cares? Yes, that is exactly what it was. And it, for me, comes to a climax where they're having dinner, the two guys from the Isle of Jersey, and then the obnoxious rich dude's just like going on and on and on. And like, so annoying. Like, even as the audience member, you're like, oh, will you just punch this guy? And I had that thought. I'm like, no, it's a Disney movie. And then he calls off and punches him. I'm like,
and then he did.
Yes.
I was so thrown off by the opening scene of this film.
Yeah.
That it's like it had a very Death Eater style, like, to these top-hatted men walking through, and I'm like, are you guys going to tell us what this is all about? Because this makes no sense. We then immediately jump forward, like 30 years or 20 years or something like that. And like, what is it? And this kid, is he really in is he in the 1700s, 1500s? He looked like, what is happening here? And they start to pay it off, especially once they get going. But you're right. The every time that they would do a dig, like the class warfare, or him just being, you're a caddy, come on here, caddy, like that, I think drew me in deeper. And it kind of won me over even more than the magnificent Shia LaBeouf and all of his glory.
He's not bad in this.
He reined in his no-no-nos a little bit, although I'm sure he probably had a couple in here. You know who else? You know what else did this for me? You know what else really drew me in and won my heart?
Eddie
the caddy. It won some of the best lines in here. That most of my lines that I took down in here is like, dames, who needs them? All of his little pep talks. We play our own game. All of those little lines that he has in here is just when someone calls him a pygmy. What's that pygmy that's happening? He's just like, just gonna have to play better. Like, he's got some of just like the greatest little one-liners that are just like, you're right. That's all we need. We just like, you gotta play your own game. Well, you're just gonna have to play better. Like he just tells them how it is, and I just love that. And I love at the end that they even have the scroll on the screen that they're like, and they were friends for the rest of till the end of their days.
I thought this was a created character. You know, every biofilm kind of has the character where they put a few together and they give them all the funny lines and everything. Like, I thought, okay, I love this character too much. There's no way he's pure 100% historical. And then when the scroll happens at the end and you're like, oh my goodness, this is like a legit guy and they were friends the rest of their lives. Oh my gosh, I love it. You know, like it elevated it even more. Like, it just kind of cemented it for me that much more. I got to say, he had the great one-liners, and the big guy from the Isle of Jersey, Ted Ray, had the line of the movie.
Go for it, Eddie.
For me.
Go for it.
When Harry asks him, how did you sleep? And he says, like a baby, woke up every 2 hours and cried. I died laughing, yelled for Sarah, you gotta hear this line. Like, and we started laughing after I repeated it to her. It was just like, yes, that for me, that was the line of the movie. Maybe that's just because, you know, that's where we are.
I had a different line from him it's his final line I don't know if it's the entire film, but it's that when he is done, when he is just like, his chances are gone. And he says, done in by the monarch of the forest. It's just like, that's a great line. I just love that.
Wait, that was the line? I thought the line was, I've done made my mark on the forest.
I thought he said done in by the monarch of the forest.
I'm going to have to go back and rewatch that and see what it
maybe a
really
fan can respond to us and tell us how wrong I am or right. I'm usually wrong in these situations. You're usually better about this than anything than I am.
I don't know about that, but that will be interesting to see what it really was. He does have a very thick accent. I will give you that. There are moments where you're just like, wait, what did he say?
I love the just pure, not amused at all, the British people to the Americans. Like, wow, they'll cheer for anything. Like, just that sentiment of like, these guys don't know what good is, and they will literally clap at anything. It just like the superiority. Normally, I would have been a lot more. I'm on the full American side, but all the Americans were so annoying and all the class warfare and stuff. I was just, the redheaded guy was so freaking annoying. So freaking annoying.
From his little speech when he gets up on top of the box, like at the welcome and everything, I'm like, what? Like, you don't have to be a jerk about it.
The climax, though, in the final moment at the end, when he's like, everyone's trying to hand him money, and he's like, I'm an amateur, or sorry, amateur, or whatever, amateur. And he's like,
that was the sequence with the British rich guy when he's saying amateur over and over. That was the moment. All I could think of was, what did one poor person say to another poor person?
Amateur. But when he's been hoisted up, he's like, take the money for Eddie, and then his dad hands him money. Dude, and I'm like, this is so intense.
His dad's proud of him.
So I did the same thing you did, where I had no expectations whatsoever. I was just like, let's just get through this. And maybe this is the movie to make the case for why we watch all the films, even the ones that we would never pick up, and not just the highlights. Because I was doing work while watching this movie. It was on the weekend, and I was like, I had another project that I needed to work on. So I'm like, I'm going to turn that on, have it in the background, have some notes on the side that I can like write down as something hits me. But so much of the things in this movie hit me over and over and over again of like, oh, that was really nice. Now, the opening montage was complete garbage. All of that animation in the opening animation was hot garbage of what they did on that. But then they made up for it in the rain montage. The rain montage was awesome. The cutting and the back and forth, it was so awesome. So I know we have to usually talk about the montages in here because we are montage aficionados.
Montage aficionados. I'm right there with you. The rain montage. That editor who edited this, Elliot Graham, was the editor.
Good job, Elliot. That was good.
He did Captain Marvel, No Time to Die. He actually won a BAFTA. I don't know. But that editing in that montage particular, I'm like, I really like the pacing and the sequence of it all. I did want to ask you, though, this movie has a lot of these like CGI follow the ball shots. And then the CGI let the crowd fade away and kind of like, it was really funny. I watched the second half of the movie with Lewis, and when one of them happens, Lewis just goes, "Oh, it's his imagination." And I'm like,
thank you, Lewis.
You got it. Thank you, Lewis. You got it. You figured it out. Do you feel like it was done well? Was it overused at times? I'm kind of split. That's why I'm asking. I'm like, I liked it, but there were other times where I'm like, maybe a little too much. What did you feel on that?
I think when it hit the jump the shark was the butterfly. When the butterfly is on the ball and he like
ladybug
hits the ladybug and he hits it and then it's like it's gone, and then he looks over and then there's the ladybug flapping its wings away, and like he knew he wasn't going to hit it. So some of the things I'm sure that they incorporated, some of it obviously was CGI, but then you also have what's called a phantom camera that can shoot super high frame rate, so it looks kind of unreal to some degree. But I'm sure some of those putting stroke or some of the strokes definitely shots were using that high speed camera to kind of get some of those really awesome fluid. You're seeing individual blades of grass flying up. Some of the graphics definitely didn't feel that great. But to some degree, even though overall it wasn't like the best CGI that you've ever seen, I feel like it did heighten the film. Like it took it like another notch above, where you're going to be like, get these crazy angles that you're never going to see normally. It made golf interesting. Make golf interesting. That's all we ask. And they did it. They did make it interesting. The heart and the angles and the intensity, like they made this thing interesting when a lot of times it's not.
Did you see who directed this and
No.
made this interesting?
Who is it?
It's the one and only Bill Paxton.
That's right. It did say a Bill Paxton film.
Yeah, the actor Bill Paxton, known for Apollo 13, Twister, Titanic. We've reviewed him on here for the great film Mighty Joe Young. But like a legit like he's like top actor. Like I don't know how to say it. Like Bill Paxton's a really great actor. This is like one of 2 movies that he has directed. The other one was a few years previous, starring Matthew McConaughey, a movie that I had never even heard of. So I thought that was really interesting. That was like, oh, this is like Bill Paxton's little, I don't know, pet project or whatever. You know, I've never thought of him as a director before this.
So another interesting piece is that the writer, this is based off of a true story, based off the book, The Greatest Game Ever Played. And the writer of that book is the screenwriter for this movie.
Which is interesting because typically that doesn't go super well.
No.
Cue J.K. Rowling and the Fantastical Beast.
Shots fired, Eddie.
Yeah, I love her, but not. I don't think they hold up to the books. I also have to give a shout out to Stephen Delane in this. He's playing the British guy. I keep forgetting everybody's names. Varden. There we go. I really like this actor. He's popped up in a couple other things that I've really enjoyed. Particularly, he's Thomas Jefferson in the HBO miniseries John Adams.
Of course, you get a John Adams nod in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really, it's just really, really good. And then he's in The Darkest Hour with, the Gary Oldman biopic of Churchill. Yep. He kind of plays the bad guy in that one. Besides Hitler, that is. You don't really see Hitler in that movie. Yeah, I don't know. I think he's a really great character actor, and this was another solid performance from him.
It was very interesting to have, like you said, 2 almost heroes in this. And you kind of, what set it up was the whole opening, not the opening scene, but that first time when Francis and Varden meet and he's teaching him how to play golf. So the whole time you're like, man, this should be better. Like this should have a better, they should be friends. Like he should become his Padawan, and he doesn't. And he has his own tragic storyline, but like motivation throughout this of just beating those men that treated him so poorly. And it's his, like his constant muse is also his constant like thing in the back of his head. And I guess throughout this, he kind of begins to move past some of that on his own, and then we still get the storybook Disney ending to this, which is probably why they greenlit it. But I thought that was an interesting choice that I haven't seen done a lot, where you've got another person, their own storyline that's going through, but they're also a competitor, and to some degree, because he never embraces Francis, that also makes Francis play that much better. The one thing it makes Francis earn it as well, right? Like I appreciate that element of like, if he is the better player, then he is the better player. Like he doesn't go like, oh, okay, kid, I'll kind of hold back here a little bit. No, like he plays it hard to the end. Any other final thoughts you have on this film that you got to get off your chest?
One last thought. I never knew that I wanted to see a golf ball get shot through a phone book.
That was a great moment. Great moment. Into the fire, no less. Just straight into the fire.
Yes. So what are you going to rate this as?
Been thinking hard about it. I feel like I would have enjoyed this even more if it was on me to not be working and doing other things and just sit and enjoy this film. Yeah, I kind of regret it. I don't know that I'm ready to jump right immediately back and watch it again. But I feel like I did a disservice. I didn't treat this film the way it should be treated, because it was better than I thought it was going to be, and it was interesting and impactful. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 3.
I'm right there with you. I'm going to give it a 3. I almost bumped it up a little bit to a 3.5. But at the end of the day, like I would watch this again wholeheartedly, but I don't think that I would rush back to it. Like I'm still going to go to A Miracle or a Remember the Titans way
It's nowhere
faster.
near. It's nowhere near in Miracle, especially, or both of those films are like in the top. They're in the Mount Rushmore probably of live action films, especially sports films. Like they're probably 1 and 2 potentially. Who knows which one is which? Mm-hmm. But I think a 3 is adequate for this film. Like it surprised me better than I thought. Some of the things are kind of goofy, some of the CGI and some of the things that happened, but they had compelling characters, compelling story, stakes. Almost talking myself into maybe a little bit more, but I'm going to say a 3. I'm going to stay at 3 with this. I'm not going to get too excited.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I put a 3.5 up on the board, but as I just kind of have settled into this, I think there was not that moment that just kind of the dad giving the money at the end.
That's a moment.
Almost was that. That was a moment. That was a really powerful moment. I think if there was just a little bit more there, the bad guys weren't as prominent. Like the whole time I thought, here was the comparison I was making in my head. I felt some similarities with Iron Will. I don't know if you remember back to Iron Will, one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid. And you have the rich guys in the train and they're kind of bantering and making bets and everything. They just kind of highlighted you got Brian Cox in there. So, I mean, it's some really good acting in that. So I felt like there just needed to be a little bit more. Like the rich guys. Yeah, like the rich guy talking about amateur while he slurps oysters. Give me a little bit more of that. Like, let me hate them a little bit more. And I think this would have elevated the story, the drama, just a little bit more for me.
Well, the one you hate the most is earlier in the film, the guy who's calling him just the caddy and is kind of calling at him after he's lost and he's got to give up the game. But he's not as prominent throughout. It's almost like he should have been a bigger part of it, but he's just not. He's just not that big a part of it.
Well, they had so many, right? There were so many of those who kind of filled that role. Even I can't remember the actor's name. I've seen him in other things.
The guy who kind of runs the country club and doesn't let him in immediately until they've got the loophole.
And then tries to switch out Eddie as the caddy at the end. There was just multiple of those. I think if
could have been more prominent,
narrow it down to one guy, make him a little more villainous. Give me some more oyster slurping moments. Like that was just disgusting. It was just like, I don't like you because you're
more mouth noises.
You're slurping oysters. You must be a horrible person. That I think that could have just punched this up just a little bit more. So 3 for both of us.
And with that, your life has been forever changed by another episode of Honey, We Made a Disney Podcast.
Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your other favorite podcast. And hey, while you're there, please give us a 5-star review and share it with your best friend.
You can also check us out at honeywemade.com, where you can see our full movie list as we are making our way almost to the end of all the movies that came out from 1988 to 2005. We only got 2 left, including next week when we review Chicken Little.
Thank you for listening. And remember, read it, roll it, and hole it.